Hi friends, today we're going to talk about our second exponents quiz from Friday. Looking at number 1, it says simplify the expression. I have negative 2.6 to the fourth times negative 2.6 to the negative fourth. When I have parentheses that are side by side here, that means I multiply. And remember, when I multiply like bases, I add the exponents. So this actually becomes negative 2.6 to the fourth plus negative 4. I know 4 plus negative 4 gives me 0. And I know that anything to the 0 power is simply 1. Looking at number 2, I have 2 to the negative fifth times 2 squared. Once again, whenever I multiply like bases, I add their exponents. Negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. I cannot have negative exponents, so I need to pull this into my denominator. So now this becomes 1 over 2 to the third. Or you could simplify it further and do 1 over 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Looking at number 3, I have 3 cubed to the second power over 3 squared. I'm going to do the top first. 3 cubed to the second power. When I take a power to a power, I multiply. So this becomes 3 to the sixth over 3 squared. Now, when I divide like bases, I need to subtract my exponents. So 3 to the sixth over 3 squared becomes 3 to the fourth. And if I wanted to evaluate this all the way, 3 to the fourth is the same as 81. Looking at number 4 on our next page, 5 cubed times 5 squared over 5 to the eighth. I'm going to do the top first. Remember, when I multiply like bases, I add the exponents. 3 plus 2 is 5, so this becomes 5 to the 5 over 5 to the eighth. When I divide like bases, I subtract the exponents. 5 minus 8 is 3. I'm going to leave my 1 on top and 5 to the third on the bottom, since it would end up being negative. And there are more. 8 is bigger than 5, so it's going to stay. That 5 to the third is going to stay in the denominator. Looking at number 5, we need to figure out what the value of n is. 5 to the n equals 1/5. I know that 5 to the first power is equal to 5. So if I need to figure out what 1 over 5 equals, I would need to do 5 to the negative 1. And that would equal 1/5. So n here is going to equal negative 1. Number 6, I know anything to the 0 power is 1. So here n is going to equal 0. Looking at number 7, I have 6 to the 10th over 6 to the 6th. And we're trying to figure out if it is equivalent or not equivalent to 6 to the 5th. Over 6 cubed. All of that squared. I know that 6 to the 10th over 6 to the 6th, when I divide like bases, I subtract the exponents, so that becomes 6 to the 4th. I want to do what's inside my parentheses here for the second one first. 6 to the 5th over 6 to the 3rd becomes 6 squared to the second power. When I take a power to a power, I multiply. So now this becomes 6 to the 4th. And these two are indeed equal. So yes, these are equivalent. Looking at number 8, Is 6 to the 7th over 6 to the 5th equivalent or not equivalent to 6 to the 5th over 6 cubed squared? All right, once again, we're dividing like bases, and when I divide like bases, I need to subtract my exponents. So 6 to the 7th over 6 to the 5th becomes 6 squared. Looking at my second problem, I have 6 to the 5th over 6 cubed. I'm taking that to the second power. I want to do what's inside the parentheses first. 6 to the 5th over 6 cubed. When I divide like bases, I subtract the exponents. So this becomes 6 squared to the second power. A power to a power I multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. So this is 6 to the 4th. 6 squared and 6 to the 4th are not equal. So these are not equivalent. Is 6 squared to the second power equivalent or not equivalent to 6 to the 5th over 6 cubed to the squared power? We already know from the top here that 6 to the 5th over 6 cubed to the second power is 6 to the 4th. So I'm just going to save us the work because we can look above to see this. And 6 squared to the second power, when I take a power to a power, I multiply. This becomes 6 to the 4th. These two are indeed equal. So they are equivalent. And lastly, it says convert 18 divided by 48. Remember, fractions are the same as division to a percent. I'm going to put the denominator always goes on the outside of my division box. My numerator goes on the inside. I need to figure out how many times 48 can go into 18. Well, that's impossible, so I need to add a 0 and a decimal. 48 into 180. 48 goes into 183 times. 48 times 3 is 144. I'm going to subtract them. 180 minus 144 is 36. 36 is smaller than 48, so it can't go into it, so I'm going to pull down another 0. 48 goes into 367 times. Oops, there we go. I know 7 times 48 is 336. So 360 minus 336 is 24. 24 is smaller than 48, so I know it can't go into it. I need to add another 0. 48 goes into 245 times. 5 times 48 is 240. So I have no remainder. I have 0.375. Now that's not a percent, and we need to convert it to a percent. Remember, if I'm changing from a decimal to a percent, I need to move my decimal 2 places to the right. So I'm going to switch this 2 places over, and this becomes 37.5%. Good job, friends.